So I just read an article on my phone, and it's talking about how McDonald's has partnered with the government to push more cheese in food. I am so upset. I have deleted all my social media accounts. My MySpace is on the fritz. My LiveJournal and Zynga have been reinstated. I will only be using LiveJournal from now on. So you can find out more information on my LiveJournal about this article. That is now livejournal.com/parenthesis Chris.
Just stop.
Facts. The article is saying that the government's going to partner with McDonald's to increase the amount of cheese that they put on their menus. What does that mean? That means that the government is going to continue to hold up the rotting corpse that is the dairy industry. The profits have been on a decline for years and years and years, and they're projected to continuously decline through 2020.
Experts say an overabundance of cheese here in the U.S. has created the country's largest stockpile of the stuff in more than 30 years.
American dairy farmers are facing an actual oversupply of the product, adding up to billions of pounds of cheese.
And the farmers are still producing the same amount. They never lower the amount that they produce, so there's an insane surplus of all these cheese foods and cheese products. So what the government does is they bail out the dairy industry. They buy like $20 million worth of cheese, and they continuously do this. They've done this many times over the years, and they're using taxpayer dollars to bail out this industry that's failing.
For most of human history, milk was a very small part of the lives of a very small number of people.
Milk was really a survival technology for living in cold places. Long winters made it difficult to grow fruits and vegetables.
Around World War I, the U.S. government sent huge amounts of canned and powdered milk overseas to fight malnutrition among soldiers. And farmers made huge changes in response. Many got rid of their other crops and animals to focus exclusively on dairy. But when the war ended, demand dried up, and the country was left with a whole bunch of milk it didn't need. At this point, farmers and milk processors had invested way too much time and energy to shift away from large-scale year-round milk production. So instead of making less milk, they convinced people to drink more.
An insane amount of the dairy that we pay for is not even going onto shelves in stores. Over 80 million gallons of milk get dumped into fields a year. That's more than the amount of tears that I spilled whilst watching The Shape of Water. It was a great movie. Won a lot of awards. That's more than the amount of blood that Gary Busey has probably spilled in his basement. And yes, it's more than R. Kelly has pissed on poor women. Not financially poor, but the poor because the pee is on them. It's sterile, but it's still nasty. I wouldn't want it on me. You're gonna be seeing more cheese in things like your Egg McMuffins. You're gonna see larger cheese slices on your burgers. You're going to see more dairy put into fraps. This isn't the first time this has happened. My voice. This isn't the first time this has happened! This isn't the first time this has happened. The government has previously partnered with Pizza Hut. That's why you get your cheese stuffed crust. They also do this with meat. They throw extra bacon, they try to throw as many different types of meat on different types of foods to push as much as they can on a single purchased item.
By the 1980s, the government was spending $2 billion a year buying up surplus milk. The Reagan administration, in its quest to cut government spending, put a stop to the buying program. And that did not sit well with dairy producers. They convinced Congress to change the rules so that they could create something called a dairy checkoff. Dairy farmers would pay into the checkoff with a mandatory fee. That fee would go towards advertising campaigns aimed at making people buy more milk. And the U.S. Department of Agriculture would approve all those campaigns. Those Got Milk ads are one example. The fees also pay for partnerships with restaurants like Domino's, Taco Bell, and Starbucks to develop dairy-heavy menu items like a pizza with 40% more cheese. All of this means that the USDA, the same federal agency that writes our dietary guidelines, is also in charge of a multi-million-dollar ad campaign to try to get us to eat a cheese pizza where one piece has 2/3 of the day's maximum recommended amount of saturated fat.
What happens when you walk into McDonald's? You go in, and you want to order a salad, right? The salad is $6. The cheeseburger is $1. And even when you order something like a salad, what is it drenched in? It's drenched in dairy. It's covered in chicken bits. They're trying to push these products on you because they obviously have an agenda.
We made it possible for us to sneak it into a ton of food with some fancy politics. How do you think pizza companies made their crust taste better? It's all thanks to us. That's right. Even if you don't think you're buying my goo, you're buying my goo. But you're probably willingly buying my animal squishy glom because we crammed our utter goo agenda into your food pyramid or plate or whatever nonsense picture you subscribe to tell you how to eat healthy.
So the dairy industry has lobbyists that are funneling money into the government.
How do we continue to make sure students have access to appealing and nutritious dairy products?
What can we do to remove policies that are hindering milk consumption or promote policies that could enhance milk consumption?
Why do you think the government subsidizes meat, dairy, and eggs? And the only plants that the government subsidizes are the plants that the animals in these industries are eating. Do you think that the government is looking out for our health? Do you think that they are really worried about what we eat and how we live? And our relationship with our dad, who doesn't call you anymore. Not even on your birthday. No, they don't! It might require a little bit of digging, but if you do a little bit of research, you know that dairy is toxic for your bodies. And the reason why it's hard to access this information is because there's a lot of propaganda that is trying to confuse you, the consumer.
Milk, it does the body. Milk, it does the body go. Pass it on. How's that go?
Well, I'm not changing so far, but milk's at work inside you.
Oh, yeah?
And tomorrow the difference can show. All that protein for muscle and calcium for bones.
Do doctors make money off of healthy patients? Does the pharmaceutical industry make a lot of money if you're healthy? No. I didn't mean to answer that. That was an accident. That's a rhetorical question. So keep thinking about it.
The government subsidizes what I call big food over here in this corner of the triangle. The people who engineer, research, develop, and market these foods generally in packages to you. That's big food. Those foods make us sick. Over here in this part of the triangle, you have what I call big pharma, only too happy to take you when you're sick and give you pills and surgeries, because that's what they do. And then big pharma pays back to the government what? Big taxes. And now they have big money to put back to big food.
Every other commercial that you see on TV is either about pills to fix an illness that you have, or it's about meat, dairy, and eggs. It's about food that's making you sick, and these two link together like this. Next thing we know, Ronald McDonald is going to be sitting on the fucking Senate. Shortly after that, Pennywise the Clown will be sitting in a Senate seat, and we'll be serving arm burgers, children arm burgers, at McDonald's. To summarize, fuck dairy, fuck the government for making us sick, and fuck you if you're buying this shit.
Nicely. Fuck you kindly.
Please go fuck yourself if you're paying for this stuff. Fuck you kindly, sweetly. Cuddle you after. I'm trying to be nice about this, but also you need to come to your own independent conclusion on this. Do some research. It's really easy to access this information. It's common knowledge that the dairy industry is subsidized by the government. It's very well known that there is an agenda there. Somebody's got a jetpack on out there. A lot of people say to me, not everybody can go vegan. People who are disadvantaged, right? These are the people that are subjected to these programs the most. These are the people that are suffering the most. So you, as a person who is trying to argue against veganism by saying not everybody can do it, why the fuck aren't you doing it? Because demand dictates supply. Eventually the government is gonna stop paying for these foods if we stop paying for them too. So if you go vegan, you're gonna give everybody else a chance to be vegan too. Mic drop.